Hello, 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 beautiful people. I hope all is well. I hope all is well. Good evening again. So, if you have been paying attention in the last, I don't want to say it's been 7 days, I have been doing a live stream series, and that live stream series has been called Love and Business. So you would say, all right, Allison, what the heck is love and business? So let me tell you. In this live stream, I have been interviewing people who are in different elements of business in some form or fashion. So last week, our first guest was Miss Business 101, and she was talking to us about taxes and starting a business with a couple versus an individual and what some of the pros and cons are, right? Then my next guest was at Emerald City. She is a brand strategist, and she was talking to us about how to brand as a couple versus as a single person. I know I had another guest. I think I had like two. My next guest talked about finances and how you run your household as a single person versus as a couple. So today we have our next guest who is going to talk to us about real estate and some of the intricacies that we need to pay attention to as a single person versus as a couple, and what some of the pros and cons are in regards to buying a house as a couple or buying property or investing as a couple versus investing as a single person. So I'm actually going to have my realtor, I want to say ex-realtor, but I'm sure we'll be doing business again together on the live. I saw that he joined us, so I want to make sure that I invite him on. Yeah, they be knowing who you're going to have on your show, and they're like having them already on the top. So, Karan, I've sent you. Hey, that was fast. Hey, Karan.
How we doing? How we doing?
I am well. I am well. So I'm sure you heard the intro. I went ahead and explained what I've been doing for the last week. So for those who are new and coming on, my name is Alison. I'm a certified dating and relationship coach, and I primarily work with singles to help them find the love and commitment that they deserve, and couples to keep the partner that they deserve, right? But there's a lot more to relationships than love and kissing and hugging and communication. There's a business to being a couple, right? There are finances and investments and planning. And so for the last week, I've been interviewing a slew of people in different areas of business to talk about what it's like to run your business as an individual versus as a couple. So today we have you, Mr. Karan. So Karan, you want to introduce yourself to those who might be new to you?
Hey, how's everybody going? My name is Karan at Invest with Karan, the youngest boss coming out of Brooklyn, but we run the tri-state area. I've been in the business for about 7 years now. Started with doing rentals in Brooklyn, branched out to doing apartments in the city, and then from there I wanted to get into sales, so I jumped into selling houses in Brooklyn and Queens. Then a lot of my traffic started moving into Long Island because a lot of people wanted a little bit more land. They wanted districts, things like that. About 2 years ago, I became an appraiser as well because I wanted to understand the numbers and see how deals started to work and why prices were priced the way they were. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell. That's it. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So I said before you joined that you are my realtor, not you were my realtor, because I'm sure we'll be doing other deals together. But just to give those who don't know, if they weren't at the Pop-In Housewarming, they don't know that Karan was my realtor. Me and my husband Andrew purchased a 2-family in Canarsie, and if it were not for Karan, we would be homeless. I'm not taking, I mean, without a home, we would be homeless. So I just want to give a little background. I was actually, someone referred Karan to me, one of my friends from junior high school. And as soon as I contacted Karan, this was in January of last year, he was on it like a hornet. I mean, we connected, we vibed. He understood exactly what me and Andrew were looking for. And he painstakingly scoured during COVID in order to find the right property for us. As a matter of fact, Karan, I don't know if you know this, I don't know if you remember, that the home that you recommended that we ended up purchasing,
You didn't
Andrew and I, we didn't see it.
Didn't see it. I went in there, I FaceTimed it, and I gave you the scoop.
Yep, and he gave me the scoop. He did a video. He went back and did another video for some little extra details that I was hounding him for. And he was so instrumental in making sure that not only did we find the house that had everything that we were looking for, that we also got the best deal. So this is why Karan is here. Not only because he's knowledgeable, but I've worked directly with him. And if there's anyone who's in the tri-state area who's looking for someone who wants what's in your best interest and will always fight for you, Karan is your man. I just had to put the commercial out there for you before we get started.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's jump right in. We're talking about purchasing property as a single person versus as a couple. So Karan, can you give us some of the pros and cons of purchasing property as a single person? Let's start with single people first. Pros and cons.
Pros and cons. The pros, first off, you don't have to answer to anybody. You're going at this thing by yourself. You know what you're looking for. You don't have to second guess yourself. You don't have to doubt your judgment. You don't have too many other people in your ear saying, I like this, I want this. It's just you. You know what you want, you know, and you're going and making it happen. Second thing is that you don't really have too many people in your finances. Sometimes people get a little bit cautious and reserved when it comes to finance. They may not be ready for other people to be that involved just yet. So going at this process alone, you're able to have a clear mind on what you want. You're able to spend what you want. You don't have everybody in your finances, and you're able to go a lot quicker. Time is really in your favor. I'd say that's the benefit of doing this alone. And there's a saying, you know, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, you go together. So now benefits of doing it together, you now have two different incomes, two different sets of credit, two different sets of savings coming together to purchase property. And that gives you sometimes twice, triple, or four times the amount of what you can do just on your own. For I'm purchasing a property by myself, I may only qualify for $500,000, $600,000. But if I add in somebody else who's just as qualified as me, and I say emphasis on the just as qualified because everybody that you purchase a property with may not be as qualified as you. In some cases, they may actually bring you down. So it's very important to know who you're buying with before buying with someone. But if you're buying together, if they're on the same level as you, 9 times out of 10, you should be able to get at least double what you would qualify for yourself. So in this case, if I'm purchasing with someone else, we should be able to get something that's $800-900 million, right? So why that's important is because depending on where you're buying, you may really need that much money depending on what type of asset you're getting. And we'll jump into that too, you know, and then we'll talk about different types of properties and along those lines.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'll have a moment of transparency. Before Andrew and I were married, when we were boyfriend and girlfriend, I hate that term, I'm not 14, but you know, we were not engaged, we were not married. I was already looking for a house. This was in 2018. And I knew from my solid but not high DOE salary that I was not going to be eligible to purchase a home. This is before you came into the picture, Karan. I knew I wasn't going to be able to purchase a home in New York City, just not an option. So my best bet, in my opinion, was that I was going to go to Yonkers. It's the closest to New York City, but at least I'll be able to afford something on my own. Now, it was a whole headache and things didn't work out. The realtor was great, but things just didn't work out. And in that course of time, Andrew and I got more serious. Now, my old school West Indian mother said to me, she said, Alison, you don't want to buy a house with Andrew? I said, Mommy, we're not even engaged. Like, I was so surprised that she would even suggest for me to buy a house with someone that I'm not even engaged to yet, and besides married. But you listen to Mama Bear, right? What Mama Bear says, and she's knowledgeable, I'm gonna rock with it. And that's when Andrew and I were able to combine our finances, and that brought me from Yonkers right to where I wanted to be, which was Brooklyn. Because had I had not had his additional W-2s and all that kind of good stuff, then I would have been stuck in Yonkers. So you're absolutely right. When you have the partnership, it allows you to be able to afford more, larger location, multifamily versus single. So that's one of the come ups. But you're also right about balancing what both parties want. Because you know that was a little bit of, we wasn't that bad, but it was a little bit of a struggle, right?
It wasn't that bad. It was just, for you, I think the most important thing was really more so location. And I think at the time that you were buying, location was a little bit interesting because we were kind of at the height of the pandemic.
Yes.
It was like when things were really, really tough.
June. Yep.
We didn't know what was going on with the market, but we knew we wanted to be in Brooklyn. So I think for you guys, the most important thing was location and obviously having a multifamily house, and then everything else just fell into play from there.
So have you experienced where couples like absolutely fight it out, where they cannot meet in the middle in regards to which home that they purchase?
All the time, all the time. I have single people that can't come to terms on the type of house they want to purchase. Really buying property is not an easy thing. I know a lot of people online make it seem like it's a 1, 2, 3 thing. It's so easy. You buy this house and you hack and do all these different. It's not that simple. I have people that can't get everything what they want. I have people in relationships that can't get it all together. So yeah, it definitely happens. But what I will say is that real estate is a thing where if you miss out on one house, there will be another one. So you have it in your mindset that you want to own and you will own, it will happen. You just got to stick with it.
Yep. I mean, I think that sounds so perfect for anything in life, right? Like other than time, you can get money back. You can get investments back. There's people who I'm sure wanted to jump off a roof in 2008 with real estate, and now they're making the most money than they've ever made in their entire lives.
Right. Absolutely. The market crash was really serious. I wasn't in the business then, but when I got in, it wasn't too much after that either. So I was able to see the effects from it and still seeing people who shined all the way through it and seeing people who are still recovering from it. But those who are able to hold on since then, their equity is through the roof right now.
Okay. Now you work with people, right? Like obviously you're a real estate agent, but you work with people. Do you ever meet couples and you think to yourself, there's no way this couple's gonna last?
Sometimes, honestly, I don't get too involved when it comes to that, but sometimes I do get dragged in, unfortunately. Sometimes I think of myself like a therapist. Sometimes, hey, listen, I know that maybe they didn't make dinner for you yesterday like they were supposed to. But you got to go see this house tomorrow. I need both of you guys there. So let's get together and let's make this happen. And I'll come and cook for you the next day. How about that?
After we close, how about that? Because we ain't got time to waste with Quran. Exactly. If you're not ready to put down your deposit, if you're not ready to have your documents and everything in a row, don't hit up my man's. But if you're ready, he's ready for you. Okay? He's not playing any games.
I got to move as fast as the market moves. You snooze, you lose sometimes. Think about it like this. Real estate market is so different from cars, right? You want a car, you go to the lot, and what normally happens? You pick one out, and then if it's a brand new car, they say what color you want. What tier you want. And do you want the luxury? Do you want the base? Do you want the sport? Whatever they have. When it comes to this housing game, I need a 2-family, I need a single family. This is what I'm approved for. Where am I looking? These are the houses that's on the market. So maybe 10, 11 houses that might fit your criteria, but 300 buyers that are looking for that same house. You have to be in a position where not only are you getting to the house first, you're going to have a realtor on your side that has some inside information that's been doing this for a while. I can tell you what it's going to take to get that. Every deal is different. And sometimes you know who's who and what's what in order to make deals happen.
Okay. That sounds great. And thank you for that. Can you give us some insight on like the first time home buyers stuff and what that looks like for a single person versus a couple?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, it's pretty much along the similar lines, but I'll break it down further. So typically, a lot of people look at FHA, right? FHA as something that's a first-time home buyers program. It's not necessarily a first-time home buyers program, but it's very common with a lot of first-time home buyers for obvious reasons. And well, for you, but I'll let everybody else know. One of the main things with a mortgage is that it allows you to purchase a 1 to 4 family property. So if you're in a space looking for multifamily homes, you can get a 1 to 4 family house with a very, very low down payment, as low as 3.5%. And in today's market, in our market, which is, the boroughs, New York City, as well as, outside Westchester, Suffolk, Nassau County, in those markets, real estate is not cheap. So being down 3.5% for some of our first time buyers, that means everything. That's the difference of renting for the rest of your life or actually getting into a property, right? So that's part one. The second part to it, outside of the low down payment, you can get in with with a higher debt to income ratio. So what, simply put, debt to income ratio is how much debt you owe, how much money you're paying out on a monthly basis, combined to how much payment you're going to be paying for your mortgage on a monthly basis versus what you bring in on a monthly basis. So if I'm bringing in 10,000 a month, but my expenses, including my mortgage, are $5,000 a month, then my debt to income ratio will be about a 50%.
Got it.
What happens now with first time home buyers, typically they may have higher debt to income ratios because they may be early in their jobs. They may be in their jobs for maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They may still be paying back student loans. They may have car notes. They may have all of these different things, which may take away from their income. So when it comes to income ratio, it's very popular among first time buyers because they get to still live the life they want to live and be able to purchase a property. The third thing is credit scores. You don't have to have a perfect credit scores with the FHA mortgage. You can go to a house with as low as 580 FICO. Do I recommend that? No, but you can go as low as a 580.
Well, why don't you recommend it? If I can have 585, what's the downside of 585 versus 700 in this process?
So two major reasons. One, the main thing is the interest rate, right? Credit score. And if you got a 640 or a 700 credit score, your interest is going to be drastically different. So why that's important is because with a higher interest, you're going to automatically have a higher mortgage off the bat. The second thing with a higher interest, higher mortgage, your mortgage payment goes up. So what does it makes your debt to income ratio go up? Higher debt to income ratio means a low mortgage to qualify for at the end of the day. So in a market where numbers are tight, you don't want to have a high debt to income ratio. You want to try to keep it low as possible so that way you can purchase more property, more real estate.
Makes sense.
So those are some of the main things that the FHA mortgage very attractive to first time home buyers. So it's been coined the first time buyers program, right? And what makes it attractive is what you're competing against. The mortgage that you're competing against is a conventional mortgage. Now, conventional mortgage is similar but different, right? Able to go and put 3.5% down on a 2, 3, and 4 family. On a conventional, you're going to have to put down anywhere from 15, 20% once you go up from a single family to a 2 family or higher. Outside of that, the debt to income ratio, it has to be lower. Outside of that, your credit scores typically have to be lower as well. So when we look at FHA mortgages, to me, I recommend it all the way for the first time buyer, especially if you're looking to go multifamily route. I'll just give you an example. If you're buying a 2 family in Brooklyn, for example, for $800,000, conventional 15, 20%, now looking at over $100,000 just for your down payment. That's not including closing costs. And that's what a lot of people don't realize when buying a property is that you have something called down payment and then you have or closing costs. So when it comes to FHA buyers, you can get in that same 2 family with 3.5% down, which is somewhere around 27 to 30 grand, something like that.
Right.
And another thing to touch on, which is closing costs. Closing costs in general are going to be about 3 to 4% of your purchase price for conventional or FHA. And in both, you can do something called a concession, where you can roll some of your closing costs into the financing if the numbers work. I say by if the numbers work is because it inflates your purchase price.
Right.
Buying a house for $100,000 and your closing costs are another 30 grand. Essentially, you could be buying a house for $800,000 versus $800,000.
Right.
But the house has to appraise for that $830,000. When it comes to first-time home buyers and using FHA, a single or a couple or partnership, the rules apply the same way. Where it gets a little bit tricky is now where you have multiple people on a mortgage, because now you're looking at different credit scores, you're looking at different debt to income ratios, and you're looking at different savings accounts. So all of those things have to line up well when you're doing it with a partner. If you're doing it just single, you just have to worry about your finances.
Got it. Now, I did receive some advice when I was purchasing the home with Andrew that said, if I was in a position to buy on my own, I should, because then I could take advantage of the 3.5%. And then later on down the line, since Andrew's name was not on the mortgage, if we could afford to do so. And in Brooklyn, that wasn't an option, full transparency. But then Andrew could then go ahead and purchase his own home and take advantage of 3.5%. So I would say that as a single person, that's a kind of a benefit, right? That you get your home at 3.5%. No, go ahead.
Tremendous benefit. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm agreeing with you all the way. My always going to be, if you can afford to do it by yourself, do it by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the main reason, like you said, I can get into this two-family home, this three-family home, this four-family home with 3.5% down in any market in the United States. So I can literally go tomorrow, buy this property. Let's say it's a four-family building. Go and buy this property, and then my significant other. And mind you, if we're not married yet,
Mm-hmm.
the key thing, you have to not be married. So if you're married, I'm sorry, you know, the rules are the rules. But if you're not,
so what you're saying is that at that time when we were purchasing, Andrew and I were not married yet. We were a couple of weeks away. So even if I could have afforded to buy it all on my own, as long as we were legally married at closing, it would still count against him. It would still be seen as though he took advantage of 3.5% because we're a married couple.
Correct.
Ooh, child. I mean, I knew that, but I'm just mind blown for those who are on here.
So this primarily is going to benefit people who are not married yet. What I would say is, if you can afford it, and I know New York market is very tough, but honestly speaking, you can find deals out here that may not necessarily have to be a two-family for 800, 900,000. You can go ahead and get a condo for, you know, 300,000, 200,000, 150,000. It's all
where? In the Bronx?
Westchester County, parts of Brooklyn, parts of Queens. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is it a full gut? Like if it's 150, it's a full gut.
Depends on what it is. If it's a studio, one bedroom, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on what your taste is. If you're comfortable with doing that, you can go ahead and purchase that property by yourself. Your spouse can go ahead and purchase another one. And then a year from now, emphasis on a year from now, because we don't want the FHA police coming after us.
Mm-hmm.
A year from now, what you're going to do is you're going to rent that property out. Your spouse will rent out whatever property they bought. And now you guys come together and buy the property you want together.
You actually want. Right. That makes a lot of sense. We have a comment that says, don't forget to tell them you can qualify for the first-time home buyers more than once. So, Karan, can you expand on that about how do you re-qualify?
So typically it depends. I would like to bring in a mortgage person to get more specific with this, but I can give a general sense on this. What you're going to be looking at is location, one, and property type, right? You're starting with getting, let's say, for example, a four-family house first or a three-family house, right? You hold that down for about a year. And then you say, you know what? I want to go down to a single-family house. I want to go down to a two-family house, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to be looked at as odd or suspicious to the banks or underwriters, right? You're now going to start out with a single family, and then a year later move up to a four-family. It may look a little bit odd because you're accustomed to live in a certain type of way.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to go and live with a bunch of tenants when you don't necessarily have to.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be looked at as a little bit suspicious. Like I said, I would prefer a mortgage into the, you know, the finer things on that.
Yes.
But yes, to answer the question, I can do one FHA purchase as a first-time buyer, and you can wait a certain grace period that they allow. I believe it's a year. You can wait a year from then, go in and do it again.
Okay.
But once you're married, then you limit yourself in those spaces.
Okay. I definitely want to reiterate the point that we just made in regards to buying as a single person. So what I found in my practice when I work with my clients, the Southern ladies do not want to buy a house. If they are single, right? And you think like, what's the connection? What you find is that there are more traditional women in the South. And so from their perspective, their fear is that if they purchase a house, then when they find their partner is going to feel as though, well, you don't need me because you already got everything.
Really?
And so, yeah, they see it as like being masculine in a way, and being too decisive and being too upfront. Where, you know, in New York, we don't care about, I'm about to curse. We don't give two about being too aggressive or whatever. If we're ready to buy, we buy. But in the South, the women tend to be a little bit more reserved. They don't want to purchase because they feel like that's symbolic of I'm going to be alone and I don't need you, and they don't want their man to feel like that.
Wow.
And so what I've told them is that if you are financially prepared and this is your desire, you should do it. And any smart man would say, wow, she's enterprising, right? And then now we can figure out what we can do with our properties.
Right.
So we can sell your property, bring our income together, and then get our dream home. You can
Right.
keep that property, Airbnb it, rent it out. I have my property. Well, there's so many options. So I just want to reiterate that there are great financial benefits to, if you're in a position to buy as a single person, to not hold back and to move forward. And anybody worth their salt would value and appreciate that. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, that sounds like some Kevin Samuels energy to me. I mean,
come on, don't be shady. Don't be shady. We don't do that. But yeah, no, you're right.
In all honesty, I think the best thing for any man or woman who is in a capacity to purchase by themselves, do it. Do it. And if anything, it's going to make you better. It's going to make your relationship better. I mean, to be able to have two people come together on the same level, or even if your lady is on a different level than you, she can help you get to another level that you might have not even seen for yourself. So I absolutely encourage that. And the problem that I have with this generation is just, it's not our fault. It's the generations before us, and it's not even their fault, but oftentimes the generations that came before us, they either rented or they did own real estate, but they didn't talk to us about it. They didn't talk to us about the benefits and the investment of real estate. And I think a lot of it is because they themselves didn't know what power this really has, right? You know, we're living in a market right now where properties in Brooklyn are appreciating 20, 30, 40 grand a year, year over year. Like, this is exactly. So, you know, this is, to me, this is not buying a house and having a place to live. This is an investment. So if you're looking at it, whereas two people have investments separately, when they get back, it's just a way better thing, because now you can leverage that equity to purchase more real estate. And if you're buying multifamily, at the end of the day, you're looking at more capital, more passive income. And that's the goal.
Good. So our last question for the night is coming from King Light, and he says, what about the FHA 203K? Can you also use that more than once? So let's one step at a time. What is the FHA 203K?
The 203K, I love this program. I've done it a few times, several times with a lot of different clients. What the 203K ultimately is, it's a construction aspect of an FHA loan. It allows you to finance construction costs. So let's say, for example, like the house you were saying just now, does this place need to be gutted and fixed up? If it needs to be, you can actually finance the work. So you can get a house for whatever price you want, right? If it needs work, you can go in and say, all right, I need a budget of $50,000 to $100,000. You hire what's known as a contractor. A contractor is going to give you, you know, your bid, and you hire something called a HUD consultant. A HUD consultant is somebody out there like a project manager who's in your favor to make sure you're not being overpriced with a contractor. They're there to make sure the work gets done in timely fashion, make sure you're not overpaying, and make sure the quality is up to par. So what now is same thing as a FHA loan. You can go 1 to 4 units with 3.5% down minimum, and with the FHA component, you can now, with the 203K component, now finance that additional construction costs. So if you were buying a house for $600,000, right, and you needed a budget of $100,000, you would ultimately be all in $700,000 on the purchase.
Right.
So one note: although you're paying one for the house and another thing for your construction, it would combine to one mortgage payment at the end of the day. So you're not mortgage on $600,000, or you're now paying it on $700,000. But if you find the right deal and the numbers make sense, then what you're going to be doing is creating something called forced appreciation. Forced appreciation looks like, I found a house for $600,000, I put in $100,000, so now it's worth maybe $800,000 to $900,000. Not worth $700,000 anymore because I put $100,000 in, so this thing needs to be worth $800,000 to $900,000.
Right.
Your house is worth $900,000 after you injected $100,000 worth of rehab. You're now sitting $200,000 worth of equity. So with that 200 grand in equity, I mean, you can go ahead and do a home equity line of credit, take money out. You can do a cash out refi. You can sell that down the line, open up a business. So many different things you can do with this money now because you've created forced appreciation. So to answer your question, I believe was, can you use it more than once? I personally don't see why you can't, as long as you follow the guidelines that the banks has in store for you.
Mm-hmm.
I would follow up with a mortgage lender for a little bit more clarification, but I don't see a problem there as long as you follow the guidelines on how to do it.
Okay, that makes sense. We did have someone who squeezed another question. I think this
Yeah,
again might be a mortgage question.
I'm open. Let's talk.
Okay, so this will be the last one because I'm tired.
Yeah.
But this might be this might also be more appropriate for a mortgage broker. So the person, this is Brampton Road, says, what about 5% conventional and then reappraisal after 3 years to get out of the PMI? Like, all right, that's a
Um,
lot. So you take
so
care of it.
so he's asking about 5% conventional and then reappraisal after 3 years to get out of the PMI and not have to refund. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing a conventional loan, to my knowledge, after you get 20% equity or close enough to 20% equity, your PMI automatically falls off. So you don't even have to worry about refinancing. And I'll break that down a little bit too for the people in the back. So I was just seeing a comment that was just a little weird. Anyways,
It's all right. Block party. You got
it,
blocked. It's all
it,
good.
either way, what PMI is, private mortgage insurance. Whether you have an FHA loan or a conventional loan, the banks consider you a risk if you're putting down less than 20%. Not
Mm-hmm.
saying you have to put in 20% because not everybody has 20% in this market, right? But if you're putting out less than 20%, the bank considers you a risk. They're going to ask you to take out an additional insurance policy for your mortgage. In case you default, the bank still is going to get their money back because of that additional insurance policy you took out. Depending on the property size, you could be paying several $100s a month on PMI, private mortgage insurance, right? If you have an FHA loan, PMI doesn't roll off automatically, even if you get to 20% equity over time.
Mm-hmm. I need to listen to this part. This has to directly do with me. So keep going.
So you have an FHA mortgage right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may very well have maybe 10% equity in the property, 15% for all we know. But let's just say you get to a point where you have 20% equity. And so people know what that looks like, right? Let's say you buy a house for 800,000. 20% of 800,000, 160,000, which would put a valuation at about 960, right? For you to have 20% equity, let's just say this house was worth 960.
Yes.
Less because you put a down payment, but just keeping it simple.
All
Nice
right.
would be the general understanding.
Mm-hmm.
On a conventional loan, that PMI would automatically go away once
Right.
you got close to that number. On an FHA loan, it's not going to go there. It's going to stay for the life of the loan. In order to get out of it, you would have to refinance into a conventional loan, which
Okay.
you do now because you have the equity.
Understood.
So to
Understood.
answer the question, I don't think you have to worry about any type of refining after 3 years, assuming you have the 20% equity after that point in time.
Got it. Got it. All right, Karan, I just want to thank you not only for being on this live stream, but for being the best realtor in the tri-state area. Can you tell us how to connect with you and spell your @name for Instagram so that I can put it in the comments so anyone who's serious about purchasing or selling their home can find you?
Yeah, I'm going to type it now. You guys can
Oh, good.
find it at Invest with Karan, NVSTWITH, Karan, KORAN. Shoot me a DM. Reach out to me. Let's talk. Let's meet. Whatever it is, I'm here whenever.
He's here to work, y'all, and he's working with serious folks who are ready to take next steps. So Karan worked with me, got me and Andrew the most amazing house in Brooklyn that we could afford because the dream house is coming next. He's now working with my friend Jordana. So you're gonna, send me a little check. We go talk about that offline. And
Closing should be this week. She should be.
you know what, man, she owes me a check too. But because this is record timing, no?
Right, absolutely. This is one of my fastest closings this year. And
Amazing.
yeah, I think
So,
we're closing within like 30 to 45 days from contract, which in the COVID market is very rare.
yep. I mean, we closed in 90 days in New York City, and that was fair. Like, that was a fair amount of time. So
Right.
if there's anybody who's really looking to buy or sell in the tri-state area, please reach out. I am personally guaranteeing you that you will not find another realtor who is more dedicated on either getting you the perfect house for you at the right price or selling your house at max? Because you're a multi-million-dollar seller at this point, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've sold 7-figure sales, top dollar, 6-figure sales, top dollar. So it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I'm here.
Yep. So please go ahead and reach out. And thank you so much for joining this live stream, for dropping those gems, for giving us insight on next steps that we should take either as a couple or a single person. Thank you so much, Karan.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everybody, on this live. I just want to say really quickly, closing notes. If you are in a position to purchase by yourself, please do it. It's the best thing that you can do. If not, and you feel like this is the person you're going to be with and the person you are going to marry, then I'd say go ahead and buy with that person, because the last thing you want to do is go 3, 4, 5 years down the line and something happens, you're not together anymore. Figuring out how you split up that property is going to be an interesting thing to work on, right? Because it's not like, you could just go ahead and say, well, you take this and I'll take this. No, you're going to have to figure out, we're going to sell it, we're going to refi, whatever we're going to do, but you're going to have to pay off one person, and it gets messy. So point blank, if you can buy by yourself, if you can afford it, great, do it now. Do it. Mm-hmm. If not, if you feel like that's the person you're going to marry, then it's okay to do it with them too. And that's it.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Bye, everybody.